Hi guys, welcome back to another video. I thought we'd do something a little different this time around. As you know, I like showing you my collections, and honestly that's kind of one of my favorite forms of ASMR, is watching people just go through a collection. Fortunately for you all, I have probably one of the most boring collections you can possibly think of. I don't know why the camera's shaking so much. Hang on. Alright, I changed some settings. The focusing's gonna be interesting. My phone updated, so now the camera acts very different. So we're gonna see how this goes. Fortunately, as you might tell now that I've kind of zoomed out a little bit, or to just change the angle, I have one of the most boring collections I'd like to show you, so hopefully this will make you sleepy. So, I have been collecting pencils for ages. And I do mean ages. And I guess some of the stuff I need to take out. Some of it's not. Clearly not. It's a light up collectible rose that the batteries are probably corroded in. Let's set that off to the side. But I've been collecting pencils for a long time. You can see the dust on them. I didn't even bother to clean them off because they would just be so horrible to clean off. I've had that mug for a long time. I don't even know where I got it, when I got it. I think I got it 12 years ago, 13 years ago. And then I have this jar as well. So I try to collect pencils everywhere I go. Everywhere I go. There are some miscellaneous items in these two mugs. So we might breathe over them. But, yeah. So I just thought we could go through each pencil one by one, and I can reminisce. Some of them are pens, because especially as time wore on, pens have become more popular. Like, people just don't seem to use pencils anymore. And I mean, to be fair, I'm not using these either. These are fully collectible. But I got this when I went to New York City for my second time in the city, but the first time I was a baby, like infant. So I don't think that entirely counts. But it just says New York with an apple for the O. It has the New York skyline just printed on there like twice. This is even the price tag that I just never took off. It's just part of the authenticity. You probably will hear the air conditioner turning on and off. That is because it is 70 outside, so it's still trying to cool off, and I was cooking and things, so the house got warm. You might also hear June bugs like hitting the window because I have the lights on and it's nighttime. You might hear some tree frogs. I just think it adds to the ambiance. So that is pencil number 1. I did not think about what to do with these after I showed them to you. I don't want them to be noisy, so I guess I'll just set them next to me. Not on the table. Table is glass. Table makes a lot of noise. Oh, this one's interesting. You might have seen it, but I'm not going to get too far into it. It used to be color changing, as you can see. Like, it was supposed to be like blue to a different color, but it's just permanently color changed, I guess, from like being in the sun. But it's for a library, a local library in one of the towns I lived in. We'll just keep it vague. But yeah, it's supposed to be blue. I can probably toss this one, honestly. But I'm nothing if not stupidly sentimental. Okay. This came from that same trip to New York. This is from the 9/11 Memorial and Museum. It's just a matte black pencil, and in white it says 9/11 Memorial and Museum with a black eraser and the black metal neck piece. So yeah, a lot of these pencils will come from the National Park Service because that's typically where you visit the most. And if you don't know, the 9/11 Memorial and Museum, that is owned and operated by the National Park Service. A lot of that stuff like that is. So a lot of these pencils will come from the National Park Service. Do another national park. These are totally out of order. I'm just drawing randomly from the owl mug. This one is green and says Yellowstone. I got this in a little gift shop, I think just outside of the Roosevelt Arch in Yellowstone. Maybe. It might have actually been in Yellowstone, like at the Old Faithful Geyser gift shop. But it has 2 moose. I did not see any moose, but I did see a lot of elk. But that was the national park that made me fall in love with the national parks. So it made me fall in love with geology. And if you want, maybe I can do a story time on that. Because I just think for a lot of people, they don't get hit with that love at first sight kind of thing about a prospect in their life or something they could be educated about, something they want to learn more about. So if you want to know more about it, just let me know. But I'll spare you the details for now. This pencil is just green on the outside, the green eraser, and a black neckband. With the amount of pencils I have, I genuinely could do like the entire, like I could go through years if I only wrote in pencil. This one's a little harder to see. This is a pencil from Niagara Falls State Park. I'm pretty sure this is supposed to look like the Niagara Falls, like cascading over, but it's really hard to tell because this pencil is fuzzy. It's velvety. That's probably why I picked it out. It has a red eraser and kind of a rose gold, reddish colored neckband. But this is a felted, like, fabric-y pencil. I don't know. I think you can kind of tell by the texture. It's not normal pencil texture. But yeah. So it kind of makes it hard to see anything printed on it. But they tried. That was a different trip. We did not go to New York City and Niagara Falls in the same trip. Those are 2 different trips. There's another one. This one's kind of been through the ringer. You can see it's been washed or wiped off. This I know I picked up at a little National Park Service gift shop. I think it was just outside the Lincoln Memorial, if I remember correctly. But this is from Washington, D.C. That is the capital of the United States. We did a whole trip there years and years and years ago in the winter. Gosh, I think, probably about 10 years ago now. I was just a teenager. When we went to Washington, D.C., it's in February, so unfortunately I didn't get to see the cherry blossoms, but we did get to see a lot of history, and it was very neat. We're big history buffs in my family, and pretty much most of Washington, D.C. is owned by the National Park Service. You know, my favorite thing in the world. Mm-hmm. Oh, here's another one in the same issue. So this is for the Kentucky Science Center, and it's also supposed to be a color-changing pencil, but I guess that after, like, maybe light exposure, or maybe just with age, they stop changing color. Because, like, you see me squeezing it, and nothing. So, I guess they have a expiration date. But it's supposed to be blue, and it kind of changes to like a yellow color. Even that yellow looks so gross now. It has a black eraser and a black neckband. Kentucky Science Center. This pencil is probably so old, I do not think that's their logo anymore. That like spiral. It's pretty though. It probably means something very sciencey that I just don't understand. Or it might just be pretty. Let's move on to our next one. Alright, here's another one. Once again, I think this was meant to change color, but I'm not fully convinced. It was 99 cents. And this is from Gettysburg National Military Park. This was one of my dad's like bucket list locations, and honestly, it was really cool. We went and like drove back through the park itself, which was the battlefields. You drive, like it's a full drive through, like you come in one side, you come out another, and I mean you can go as fast or slow as you want, but it took us days to get through it. But we went back one evening after we got dinner, and right at sunset, and they locked the gates at sunset, so they locked the front one like pretty much behind us. I mean, we were out there in pitch dark in the middle of the summer. They say Gettysburg is one of the most haunted places in the world because of just how many people suffered and died there. But what do you think? It felt pretty freaky to me. But maybe that's just because I don't like being in open fields in the dark. But this pencil is orange. I probably would not have voluntarily picked this color, so it's probably the only color they had. Paint's dripping off. It has a yellow eraser with a gold neckband, and the eraser is totally deteriorating. Unfortunately, they printed the barcode right on the pencil. If you've never been, even if you're not a big military fan, or like care about like military history, you know what I'm trying to say? Even if you don't care about military history, it's still really neat to go. Just that whole town is so old. That's what was most fascinating, was that town, all the buildings were so old. That was the trip that we went to New York City on. Oh, here's another one. I had to, of course, get this. This is from the Betsy Ross house. As you can see, the paint's chipping off of it. So this is the American Flag House and Betsy Ross Memorial. This is owned by the National Park Service. It is actually her home. Betsy Ross is the woman who sewed the... It was bound to happen. I just hope it wasn't loud. Betsy Ross is the woman who sewed together the first American flag. I mean, back then there was like the 13 colonies, and that was pretty much it. But you can find this walking around Philadelphia, because Philadelphia was the original capital of the United States, if you didn't know that. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, before they eventually moved it to Washington, D.C. And if you've seen Hamilton, you know why they did that. But you see the paint chipping off on my fingers. I guess there's no saving that. That one was neat. The tours and stuff were booked for the day, so we didn't, and it was kind of late, so we didn't get to go in, like actually see it, but you can step in, because like the parlor area is like the gift shop. So yeah. Now here's an interesting one. Greenfield Village. So this was the same trip that we went into Niagara Falls. We did all 5 Great Lakes plus Niagara Falls, and we did stuff in Detroit, Michigan, and one of them is Greenfield Village. It is actually part of the Henry Ford Museum, which I see the pencil for that right here. Let me get the dust off of it. So yeah, here we are. This one is pink. You can do it. And of course the barcode's right there in the middle. See, pencils were always just a nice cheap little souvenir. Paid $1 or less usually. But yeah, here's the Henry Ford Museum. That is an absolutely insane museum. If you get the chance, you need to take like 2 or 3 days and do that. So the Henry Ford Museum is hand in hand with Greenfield Village. This is like one of those like newspaper pencils, and then this is just a regular pencil. Greenfield Village is like literally houses that Henry Ford and some of his like predecessors purchased and had moved to Detroit, Michigan. And there were houses that belonged to like very famous people, like throughout American history, and not even necessarily American history. My dad is a big aviation nerd, and not only did we get to see the Wright Flyer, one of the Wright Flyers, there, like they had one of their planes, because they made a couple different versions, if you remember. But they also literally had their house there. Like they had their house like picked up and moved from, what was it, North Carolina, I think? Or South Carolina? One of the Carolinas. And like they deposited the house in Detroit, Michigan. And they restored it, and like you can walk into it, which is crazy to think about. So that's what Greenfield Village is. And it's kind of like a look back at the past. Like they have period actors. They have these like recreations of Ford Model A's or Model T's, I think, and that you could drive around and stuff. It was really neat. And then the museum itself, I mean, it was just fascinating. All the things in there. The chair that Abraham Lincoln was shot in. I've seen a lot of Abraham Lincoln's life. I've been to a lot of his museums and all kinds of crazy things. But they had the chair that he was shot in, and there was still like blood on the chair, like dried blood. Of course, like over 100 years old, but absolutely insane. So if you get the chance to go, highly, highly recommend you go visit these two. That was another trip that like changed my life. This one will be pretty quick, probably. No big stories here. It says the zoo, specifically the Louisville Zoo, here in Louisville, Kentucky. This one's interesting because it is green and yellow like tiger stripes, and the yellow's shiny, and the green is glittery. Honestly, major vibe. All the erasers like deteriorating. That's how long I've had some of them. They feel solid. Like if you put these to paper, they would just smudge it, you know. I think last time I went back, they didn't even have pencils anymore. So this must have been from one of my first trips there. So probably about 13 or 14 years ago now. Look at the shininess. Neat. Thank you for letting me nerd out with you all. So this one looks like a nice type of wood that's been like lacquered. So it's definitely a plastic coating. So this is from the home of America's first national monument, Devil's Tower. This thing is crazy. So they say encounter the tower as like a slogan kind of thing. I don't know if they honestly use that anymore, but that is because this tower was actually featured in the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the Alien movie from like the 80s or something. Highly, highly recommend it if you go out to it. At first, like when my parents said we were going there, this was on the way to Yellowstone. I was like on our road trip out there from the Ohio River Valley. I didn't know what to imagine, and I mean, just Google pictures of it. It's crazy if you've never seen it. But what it is it's remnants of the inside of a volcano. The volcano part eroded away, after the lava hardened and cooled inside, or cooled and hardened inside. So this is the remnants of lava. It's a major spiritual site for the indigenous people in the area. So there's a lot of like little prayer sachets and ribbons tied on trees. So don't touch those, don't climb it. I'm pretty sure it's one of the rules because it's so sacred. But definitely walk around the base. It is humbling. It's so flat out there, and then all of a sudden there's just this thing. Just hundreds of feet above you. It's mind-blowing. Here's another pencil from the Great Lakes area. So I think I actually have two from this one, but this is a nice like teal color. I guess more like a seafoam color, but this says Great Lakes, the Shipwreck Museum. This is Whitefish Point, Michigan. I cannot remember which of the Great Lakes this was, but I have another pencil that's kind of absurd. Regular pencil, this pencil. But this, I think that's why I wanted this one, because I thought the color was pretty and it was nice and simple, but this one, that's what it is. Lake Superior, that's what Whitefish Point is on. So this is from the Whitefish Point Light Station, so the lighthouse that's there. At Whitefish Point, Michigan on Lake Superior. We went in the middle of summer and we were freezing.